So the number one question that people ask me over and over and over again is, how's the market? Well, to answer that specific question, I'm creating this video today to give you a little bit of insight as to what the Utah housing market has done, where it's come from, what it's doing right now, and what I believe it's going to do over the coming year or two, so that you can gain a little bit of clarity if you yourself are considering making the move to Utah, or perhaps even move within the state. All right, so first and foremost, let's step back and go back a few years. Back to 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. And in Utah specifically, Utah was kind of at the top of the list around the country in terms of places that were growing incredibly fast. Why? Because so many people chose to make Utah their home. So many people moved here from other states like California and Texas, and even Florida and New York, as well as Arizona and Idaho. So many people were making the move here that it increased demand so substantially that the supply of homes that we had available could not even come close to keeping up. Therefore, it resulted in skyrocketing home prices. And in the summer of 2022, when interest rates really started to climb, that's precisely when the market started to settle down and kind of find its footing in what was now the new normal. So for the last 2 years, the market has remained pretty much sideways in terms of its growth, but it's still on the upside. So it's still climbing even with these really high interest rates that we've seen over the last couple of years. In fact, last year, the housing prices here in Utah rose by 5.8%. So is the market softening? No, not at all. The market in Utah has not softened, and I don't see it softening today either. And the greatest insight that I can give you right now regarding what is the housing market doing is really looking at and analyzing the data for what is happening, both on the supply side as well as the demand side. And we do that in real estate through numbers that are called the absorption rate and, of course, the inventory or the supply that's currently on the market. And look, if we haven't met yet, my name is Scott Steele, and I absolutely love helping people discover all things Utah, including Utah real estate. And I help people make that move to Utah each and every day. And it's my passion. I absolutely love serving people, especially those that are moving here, and finding a new place that they can call home. So if that is you, I would love it if you would reach out to me. You can find my contact information down below, but also consider subscribing to this channel because I continually, each and every week, come out with YouTube videos that will serve you in your search for not only a home, but a new community. So if you want to get started, just reach out to me down below and let's get started. All right, so where's the market today? The market is not softening. We still see more demand than what the supply is offering in the market today. And although the number of homes that are currently available for sale has gone up to a healthy number, which is just over 10,000 homes, which is a massive improvement from where we were during the pandemic, which was under 2,000. And so when we see these numbers climb to a more healthy, balanced number, we can really begin to analyze, is this more of a buyer's market or is this more of a seller's market? In other words, do the buyers have more leverage or is it the sellers that still carry more leverage? And in today's market, where we still see the market climbing and going upward, we're noticing that on many properties, there are still multiple offer situations. So if a seller is listing their property at an appropriate number at market value or even perhaps slightly under market value, they are inevitably getting multiple offers on each one of those properties, and that's making it competitive for buyers. There's also another caveat that I'd like to explain. If a home is in a particular neighborhood that is super desirable, even if that home is listed at or slightly above market value, and they're still getting a lot of offers. And oftentimes those are multiple offer situations as well. On the flip side, we do see properties sitting for 30, 60 days on the market without any action. And typically it really boils down to the fact that those homes have some type of characteristic or attribute that is not positioning them well with relation to the price where they've marketed the property. In other words, they're just a little overpriced or greatly overpriced. In a nutshell, the supply right now is much healthier than it has been, but the demand is still there. And more importantly, there's much more pent-up demand behind the scenes that we're not noticing. There are so many people that want to get into and buy real estate that are waiting because of the higher interest rates. Now let's talk interest rates just a little bit. Interest rates have climbed up over 6 and even 7%, which to some people who lived through the 80s and into the 90s would argue that those rates are nothing compared to what they experienced. But in reality, the relationship between somebody's median income versus the median home price is drastically different than it was. Back then, you could buy a home for 4 times your annual pay. Today, that's just not realistic. It's more like 8 to 12 times your annual pay. Keeping that perspective in mind, higher interest rates today are not necessarily comparable to those higher interest rates of yesterday, or in this case, the 1980s. But what I can confirm is that it's become incredibly difficult for the average American family and Utahn to go out and purchase a median priced home because the payment is just too high. And despite all of these contributing factors, the market is still going upward. So some people in the comments on my videos would argue that there's going to be a crash. It's going to drop 30 or 40 or even 50%. And I can confirm right now that is not going to happen. We're not seeing it now. And now that inflation has started to get into check, and the Fed is recently signaling that they might start cutting that federal funds rate, which will in turn affect the markets, that will affect the mortgage rates. I don't see this happening. And as soon as those rates really start to drop, maybe down below the 6% point, down into the 5s, the demand will just come right back and more people will be more competitive in buying real estate. And the result of that may be a decrease in supply. And something else to consider is, if those rates do come down enough, are there then going to be enough people that are motivated to sell their homes and move on to a new home? So that might help supply stay a little bit more stable without dropping down into those levels that we saw in 2020 and 2021. But ultimately, over the next year, I do see the market continuing to go up just slightly until those rates really start to come down. And that's when the prices are really going to start going up again. All right, next up, let's talk new construction. New construction historically has accounted for anywhere from about 10 to 12% of the overall market. But that's completely changed over the last year or two, with new construction playing a much bigger role in what people are considering to purchase. It's actually now nearly a quarter of all homes sold are new construction. So what are we doing with new construction and how does that impact us today? And if we look back in history and we go back to the financial crisis of 2008 and we look at each and every year, statistically in Utah, we have not built enough homes. Every single year we've been in a shortage, other than one year, and that was 2022. That's the only year that we actually built enough homes for that particular year, and that has contributed to the shortage that we find ourselves in today. So despite many people thinking that we need to stop building more homes because this place is growing too quickly, the only way to keep those real estate prices at bay or to prevent them from increasing dramatically in the near future is to simply build more homes. We need more inventory. And so it's become incredibly important to consider and look at what new construction is doing because it greatly impacts the markets. And if you yourself are considering new construction, there are some incredible incentives out there from so many different builders because for them, rather than dropping their prices on their homes, what they're doing instead is they're offering the right incentives so that people can do permanent buy downs on their rates so that they can have a home at 4.5% or 5% interest rates and actually make that move, which positions their product, their homes, as being much more attractive than the existing inventory because people can get into a home for a much lower mortgage payment. Now, coming from the building background myself, I used to build homes. I know the new construction side incredibly well. I know what pitfalls to watch out for. And most importantly, I know which builders and communities are going to be better to work in and work with. So I have relationships with not only the local and the regional home builders, but the national home builders as well. And I help clients each and every day with their new construction homes. So if that's you, reach out to me. I'd love to be your real estate resource when considering new construction because I can save you money and make sure that that product ends up being exactly what you're paying for and make sure that I'm representing your best interest and not that of the builder, which is exactly what you get when you walk into a sales office and let their salesperson sell you the house. So reach out to me. My team and I can really help you with new construction. Okay, so what's the real estate market going to do in the near future? Well, time will tell. Nobody has a crystal ball, but I can say that what is coming is more demand because the people that are moving here and the people that are looking to buy real estate as local Utahns is not slowing down. And so as the markets adjust, the financial markets, as well as the federal funds rate and the mortgage rates, it will absolutely bring more people out of the woodwork that are looking to buy real estate. And that's when it gets much more competitive and prices start climbing rapidly. And I also wanted to talk about some of the biggest opportunity areas that I don't talk about very often in my YouTube videos. These are the areas that I see being the biggest opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years because these are the areas where I see the biggest growth, and I'm going to explain why. First, we're going to talk about northern Utah, just west of Ogden, but also northwest of Ogden. These areas are covered in farmland that is being developed right now as we speak. So new subdivisions and new master plan communities are going in. Those areas historically have been less expensive because they're not as close to Salt Lake City and the traffic was a little harder to get through previously. But with major infrastructure improvements right through Davis County, it's become much more appealing. In fact, you can be just 20 minutes away from downtown Salt Lake City and be 2 counties away up in Weber County. So if you're looking for Syracuse or Hooper or Taylor or West Haven, if you're looking for those areas west of Ogden, those are really big up and coming areas that if you do buy today, those values are probably going to appreciate at a higher rate than most other places. And the second area I want to talk about is just west of Salt Lake City. If we drive 30 minutes to the west, Tooele County has a bunch of small towns right now in Tooele and Erda, Stansbury Park, Lake Point, and Grantsville. These areas are just starting to bloom and explode, and in the next 5 to 15 years, Tooele County is absolutely going to explode in growth, and with that, the values will do the same. And of all the different areas that I'm talking about, this is the area that is closest in proximity to downtown Salt Lake City that provides all of the benefits of being close to a major airport and a major city, but yet still have real estate prices that are substantially less, and it's that reason alone that forecasting population increases over the next 15-20 years show that this area is going to be the most rapidly growing area in the state, and with that, the home values will do the same. All right, next I want to talk about the third place, and that is at the southern end of Utah County. I talk about Utah County a lot because Utah County is the fastest growing county in the state of Utah, particularly the northern portion along Saratoga Springs and Lehigh, Eagle Mountain, and American Fork. Those areas have been growing so rapidly, but it's the southern end near Spanish Fork and Payson and Benjamin and Santaquin. Those areas are going to start cracking into our lists of the top 10 fastest growing cities in the state because there's so much land down there that's close enough to downtown Provo, but also remaining not too far away from Salt Lake City as well. These three areas are the biggest opportunity areas that I see in the next 5 to 10, maybe 15 years. And beyond that, as these areas fill up, the Wasatch Front is just going to be filling up more and more and more to the point where we're pretty much filled in. And so if you are looking to make that move within the state of Utah or to the state of Utah, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. So drop a comment below and let me know where you're coming from if you are considering making that move, and click that subscribe button if this is the type of content that helps you. And if you're looking to learn more about the best neighborhoods in Utah as well as life in Utah, check out this playlist next. And until the next video, thanks.